All right, guys. Wednesday, before the first Eagles game, we're getting closer. Captains have been named. We've got lots going on with Nick Sirianni speaking yesterday, lots to talk about, but it doesn't matter because we got a special guest today on the show. The boss man, our captain at PSN, Liam Jenkins, is here with us today. Trending in the AM here on Philadelphia Sports Network starts in 30 seconds. And a very good morning, everybody, and welcome to Trending in the AM right here on Philadelphia Sports Network. We're live, as always. You know the drill. Like, share, retweet, follow. It is free to hit that like button. That is what I always tell you, and that's what you always know. Hit that like button, the share button, subscribe button. It's free to do. It doesn't cost you a penny. You just click it, done. And this is Trending in the AM, like I always say, and it's where your opinions actually matter. I'm your host. You know me, Phil Stiefel, but we got the boss man, Liam Jenkins, sitting in next to me today. Everybody asks where Liam is. Well, I went across the pond and I found him and I put him on the screen next to me. Good morning, Liam. How you doing today?
I'm good. I'm excited for my lifetime worth of free pizza you used to bribe me to get on here. So that's.
I found a way to get you on the screen quicker and easier than the 400 police and special service people that are trying to still, yes, K1, still find the midget murderer that is running loose in Kennett Square in Chester County right now. We are on day 7 of the manhunt. And he is still not being caught. But I was able to find Liam. That's how hard it is to find a murderer, but not Liam.
That is more impressive. Finding me is a much tougher job sometimes.
What is up, Tyrone? How you doing this morning? Tony. Danny Green. Yes, Danny Green signed by the Sixers. I'm a Danny Green guy. So, Tony. So don't worry about we'll talk some Sixers later, but today's all Eagles. We're doing that. What's up? Yeah, I'm not in hiding. I don't hide. I left the doors, K1, of the pizza shop wide open all day. And look, already someone saying, my guy Liam, great to see you. Philly Spartan, ready to go with Liam today. So Liam, let's not waste any time. We rolled through those opening comments. We are now, 5 days away from opening kickoff here, Sunday, 4/25. Where are you mentally at this point? All the training camps over, the preseason game, the 53-man roster is basically set. Where are you mentally right here a few days before the season kicks off?
I genuinely think I'm at the exact same place I was last year, which was quietly confident and not really sure why, but then not really sure why I wouldn't be. So last year, it was the schedule was easy. I had full faith that Hurts, if you could just take even half a step forward and improve on the flat throws over the middle and instead of ducking and running first, just get a bit of confidence in the pocket. I was if he gets that, the ceiling for this team is limitless. They then went on to make a Super Bowl run. I was very, very happy about that. Mm-hmm. This year, you kind of see what happened after 2017, where there was an element of a Super Bowl hangover. There was a panic where Wentz still wasn't 100%. The wheels slowly started to fall off as there was more of a panic to bring in the free agents to bolster the wounds. It feels like how he's learned from that. The defense, I would take every single day of the year over last year's defense without a shadow of a doubt. Just longevity-wise, the upside that there is now is ridiculous. Offense, you've got every key component back, be it offensive line, be it receiver. The one area that has changed is running back. That's got better because for the price of Miles Sanders' new contract in Carolina, you've now got a 3-headed monster. And then the offensive coordinator is someone that Jalen's known since he was 5 years old. And that level of stability, we even said last year, there was the first year, ever since high school, he's had the same coach 2 years in a row. The first year, be it Bama, be it Oklahoma, he'd never had that stability. You're now going into a year where Hurts in the Super Bowl, I arguably proved, I think, he was the best quarterback in the league. For that 2-hour period, under the brightest lights, to push that team to the brink of a Super Bowl win is unbelievable. So my theory is I think that the very basic expectation is they win the NFC East. I think that has to be the floor. Yeah. NFC Championship game, I still think they're the best team in the NFC. I don't think San Francisco get close. Super Bowl is the coin flip, the maybe, depending how the playoffs fall. But realistically, I think that if the Eagles can get through that stretch of the season where they have the Chiefs, the Bills, they go to Jerry World to face the Cowboys away, if they can get out of that stretch of games, they can make the playoffs. I don't think there's a doubt in anyone's mind that this is the best team in football and Jalen is the best quarterback in the NFL. So it's really weird. I can't see genuine reasons for concern outside of the fact they still don't have a punter, but even that's an upgrade over Aaron Sipos. Like, I'll take none. Just
Dude, I saw somebody sharing videos of Jake Elliott punting the other day. Like maybe we spent a whole show talking about how Howie Roseman is progressive and thinks outside the box, and then the league follows him. Maybe that's a new way. You just have one person kicking and punting. Who knows? Actually, you said two things that I was taking notes while you were talking there. And yes, Liam is better than Dan Silly, man. We know that for a fact. Yes, I am wearing my Union shirt. I try to wear it once a week to support my Union. What is up, Eric? How you doing today? The Eagles could go get messy. Yeah, sure, why not? But you said two things that stuck out to me there in your little, your start there. You were talking about the confidence, like your quiet confidence last year, and that was actually a title of the show earlier this week. It's okay to be confident. Do you think like last year you might have had this silent confidence, like I think they're really going to be good, but I don't want to let my hopes or my fandom get in the way because we get disappointed far too often. Like I think it's okay to be confident this year because this team on paper really is that good, and the NFC. I talk about timing all the time. The NFC is right for the Eagles to march right through it again. So I think it's okay to be confident this year.
I think that the difference is where last year there were still reasons for genuine hesitance. So like we said, Jalen Hurts was coming off of a 2021 campaign that was strong. There were a few weaknesses there, like we mentioned, be it the deep ball, be it the confidence in the pocket, whatever. You've got Nick Sirianni, who had proved some people wrong, fair enough, in 2021, and the team had got better. There were some nice free agent pieces in, like Chauncey Gardner-Johnson, whoever. The difference was that schedule was, in fairness, very, very easy. It was one of the top 3 easiest schedules in football. So realistically, they didn't have to take that much of a step forward to even make the playoffs. The seismic leap they took was what the pleasant surprise was. The difference this year is all of those previous concerns have now been quieted. We know Sirianni can coach. He's done it in the biggest game in football. We know Jalen Hurts is a $255 million level quarterback. We know the defense is going to be one of the most aggressive in football. And Jonathan Gannon, who drew plenty of criticism from myself last year, is out of the picture. So there is only confidence in the fundamentals. The only hesitance now is flipped, and it comes from the schedule is a bit tougher though. So it's that's the only thing, but there is not a single concern about the team itself. The only, I guess, concern would be what happens if they do start a bit rocky? What if it is a bit slow? What if Jalen doesn't get off? Because the spotlight on that man now partner of the Jordan brand, $255 million, there is going to be a lot of pressure. And as much as everyone loves him and everyone wants to rally behind him, if he does start wobbly, if there are some, dodgy interceptions, some bad decisions, he's going to own every mistake. But is that pressure going to build quickly? And when you get to that crucial run where you've got, again, the Bills, the Chiefs, Jerry World, you've got Seattle just after it as well, can they survive? If they can weather that storm, it will be the most complete team in football. But there are I think the only detractors on this team is the ifs, buts, and maybes of the opponents they're facing.
That's the great thing about when you have a guest on the show. Like I had a follow-up. I was ready to go in one direction. And then you just said something else, and it kind of just steered me to change the conversation. And I'm still firing through. Yes. Everybody loves the way you British people say quarterback. Keep popping up on my timeline here. Quarterback.
Yeah, quarterback.
I love it. So you're talking about what if they get off to a rocky start or this and that. And I've said this literally, I feel like a broken record 1,000 times on this show, that even if Jalen Hurts, the quarterback, took a step back as a quarterback, the intangibles, the leadership, whatever you want to talk about him won't ever take a step back, in my opinion. And I've said this 100 times, 1,000 times. I do not foresee this team ever being led by Jalen Hurts ever losing more than 2 games in a row, because I don't think his leadership will ever let this team down to a point where they'll be able to. They're not going to go on a 3 or 4 game losing streak. It's just not going to happen with that type of leader at the front.
Yeah, I think the other thing to bear in mind, and where this team differs so much from that one in 2018, is the level of leadership within the team. Like 2018 was very much band-aid plays, like
Mm-hmm.
Nigel Bradham and the umbrella incidents. There was a lot of off-field concerns going on. Like if you look at just even I think it was 2 draft classes ago, like it was, or even the Milton Williams one. So yeah, 2 years ago. Like every player in that draft class was either a team captain or had some kind of relationship to the Eagles, be it a cousin or otherwise. This year, you've just inherited the entire Georgia Bulldog defense, which is intrinsically known for that high character of play, that high level of like football IQ, the respect and whatever. So you're building a team that is just football focused. It doesn't matter like I think we've kind of escaped the whole JJ Arthega-Whiteside. You've got all the production coming out your ears, but your mum holds your umbrella at training camp. Like we're past that level, and you've now got a team that is just fundamentally leaders, high character guys that are going to keep that glue together. Before, it was really only going to be like Fletch, Brandon, BG, Jason Kelsey, like your core 4 or 5 guys who are doing the leadership work with a few little like almost core groups elsewhere. Now you've got just one unified group that all can rally behind Jalen Hurts because they believe the same things. They're not on different pages. Like everyone is on that same wavelength, and that you're right. That probably is going to be the difference when it comes to those 2-3 game skids.
Yeah, I mean, we did a schedule. I did my official one time. I only predict the record and the schedule once a year. I did it a couple shows ago. I came up with 13-4. I did have a stretch with them losing 2 games, but right away, right after that, I had them beaten. Where did I have the 2 losses? So I had the losses Cowboys, Seahawks, 14-15. I actually didn't have them losing a majority of that Chiefs, Bills, Niner stretch because of that. But you bring up Fletcher Cox, Brandon Graham, Jason Kelsey, and who did I miss? Lane Johnson. 4 of the 9 captains. I was thinking yesterday after that graphic was released with the captains. I'm 42. I've been a Philadelphia sports fan for 42 years. As soon as I was born, I was cheering these Eagles on right from the get-go. I cannot remember a point in Eagles history or Philadelphia sports history where there were 4 guys that were this like big of leaders for this long a stretch of time. Like the 93 Phillies had Darren Dalton and John Kruk and Lenny Dykstra, but that was like a 1-year winning stretch. You know what I mean? It's not like that led to a long run of success. Like these guys have been here for a long time, and I don't know in the current state of sports, like we as fans need to appreciate these guys even more than we already do, because we might never see this kind of 4 core leaders on a team for this long ever again.
Well, that's it, and you've got to think. I mean, it has to be by design. Like I said, like the level of high character guys they're bringing in, but it's also that the focus on draft picks. So you get those cheap contracts for longer. So you've got someone now like a Jordan Davis, Jalen Carter, Nolan Smith. Those 3 guys together, at least at the very bare minimum, have 4 years together. That's a 4-year core there. That's an entire window of development, right? You compare it to the obvious one is the Rams, who just trade everything for these like bandage players for a year. The wheels fall off, there's injuries, there is no sustenance to keep the car moving. So what's even more exciting is that you've got Lane, you've got BG, you've got whoever. But if you look at those positions, Jordan Mailata is going to be here a long time. Jason Kelsey goes, Tyler Steen's going to be there. Fletcher Cox goes, Jordan Davis, Jalen Carter is going to be there. Every spot, Darius Slay goes, you've now got a flurry of like undrafted developmental corners that have all been good enough to make the roster. There are guys at every spot that are going to be growing under the wings to get to that leadership point. And then that's the key difference is it keeps the culture the same. The guys that then grow into leaders, they fill those boots. That wasn't there a few years ago. Like, I mean, you look at the cornerback position's the easiest one. Like the Jim Schwartz era of cornerbacks, you were drafting triangle, shaped players to fit square peg holes in the defense. The dream corners for me, I couldn't help but get excited over Rasul Douglas and Sidney Jones. And then you put them in that defense where they're just not suited to playing off coverage 10 yards off the ball. Like Cam Jones is another one, as Kay says. Like the difference is everything is on the same page. The way the team's built, the way the players are, it's built for longevity. And I think even if this year doesn't go as planned, maybe there's a blip in the road, maybe it's only, an NFC East crown or whatever, the upside long term is just so much higher because of those types of players. Like, even offensively, Smitty, AJ Brown, Jalen Hurts, that's another 4-year deal now, pretty much. You've got those guys going to be around for a while. There's just so much strong leadership that it's hard to ignore, I think.
Eric, if there's time, we will get into this conversation because didn't we do a long show on this a little while ago? We'll get back to the UK and football in a little bit. Cam Jurgens was mentioned there. Yes, my first words were Eagles, maybe actually Phillies. I went to my first Phillies game before my first Eagles game, Eric. And Howie is this is a great point from Tyrone. He's developing a great mix of vets and younger players that's very sustainable. And Peanut, yeah, Trotter, Dawkins, Westbrook, Thomas, McNabb, Taylor, were all of them here together for at least 4 straight years, and there was a lot of downs in that time too. Yeah, we had a lot of winning, but I don't know. I kind of feel like this core group, there's a little different aura about this core four because first off, they won a Super Bowl. So I don't know. I kind of feel like there's a little bit of a difference between that McNabb era group and this group because I think the confidence, not just because they won a Super Bowl, but just the overall feeling of this team, because that team had McNabb, this team has Hurts. There's a different type of leader at the helm.
Yeah,
So I kind of feel like there's a different perception of that team versus this team.
Yeah, 100%. I think again, it's easy to look, I guess, with like Kelly Green tinted glasses to a point when you look at like Donovan McNabb. A lot of people think the obvious, like McNabb leadership TO doesn't really end the way that people
Right.
want. I couldn't imagine a scenario like that with Hurts and AJ or Hurts. And my hugest concern last year genuinely was one of those receivers is going to have to take a back seat because you are not going to get both of them having 1,000-yard campaigns with Jalen Hurts throwing the football because they're both 1A receivers. It's just not going to happen. I was proven massively wrong, and it's the happiest wrong I've ever been proven in my life. I've never been so happy to wave the white flag. And it's like even that, a scenario where you've really, I mean, wide receiver is the most ego-driven position in football because it has to be. It's the same with corner. You've got two guys there. I think Smitty is the most gifted receiver. If I was going to pick a receiver for the next 5 years in football, Devonta Smith for me is him over Justin Jefferson. AJ Brown is a proven commodity. We know what he can do. I was like, one of them is going to have to take a back seat. There might be some friction, not even a whisper. And if that doesn't scream the level of leadership, the level of composure and belief, like I remember after the first 2 weeks, Devonta Smith had like a flat line. I can't remember what game it was, but he had like 0. And
I think it was actually the first or second game of the year.
Yeah. And I was like, it's happening. Oh my God, it's happening. They've got to fix this. And then he goes out for like 120 yards a week later. And I was just sat there like, yeah, my bad. Sorry, guys. Don't panic like that. So yeah, I think
I've been saying that. Like I did a whole thread and video back in like late February, early March, before it became a big thing in the media, like in the last couple of weeks with Brown versus Smitty, who's better. I did a whole thing back in like late February, March on it. It's not a knock, and I think everybody's overreacting to the talk between Smitty and Brown, who's better, because they're both great wide receivers. The point is that everybody just wants enough respect put on Smitty's name that he deserves. It's 1A, 1B for sure. And last year, Brown had what, close to 1,500 yards. Smitty had around 1,200 yards. It could flip flop this year, or they both can have the same. But the who's better? The fact that both of them were voted captains on this team. I don't know if I've ever remembered 2 wide receivers being captains on a football team. I think that just speaks volumes at how much the team looks to these guys and realize both of them are fantastic. But on a side note, again, you're right. Smitty, he's my guy. I mean, he does everything a wide receiver. Like, I need a Smitty video. Remember, I found that little video of you breaking down Jordan Mailata. I need a Smitty breakdown video because I love it. But back to them being captains, I mean, it says a lot.
So I remember when I used to do my wide receiver rankings, and I'd judge every NFL draft wideout based on like the same things, so like release, like physicality, ability to like absorb contact through the stem, all just like basic traits of a wideout. And I had over a 2-year period, I had Devonta Smith graded over Ruggs, over Judy, over literally, he was my top guy, like without a doubt. And then, unfortunately, in terms of like fits for the Eagles, I redid it again. Jalen Reagor was one of the top guys, and then he got drafted. And I was, they've listened. I get it because they've gone for the receiver that fits them, and then it all went a bit tits up. But I mean, just to talk to the AJ and Devonta like duo again, all you've got to do is think back a few years ago with your Shaunanimous sources, and all that was a one-man wrecking crew in Alshon Jeffrey. He wasn't happy. He wasn't getting his targets. There wasn't even a 1B. He had like, I don't know, who even was it next to him?
I don't remember at this point.
It was, I think, the former 49ers guy, he got injured. Then they had Deshaun Jackson for a bit. I forgot him now. Someone will bring his name in. My mind's not fully working.
Yeah. Who was opposite Alshon, people? You're always good at catching me when I don't know.
I can see his face. He's always on Twitter and he still talks about the Eagles. I can't remember his name. That's doing my head in now. But anyway, the fact is that Alshon got upset about that. Like, you've now got 2 guys who are at the very top of their game, and they're not care. It doesn't even matter in the slightest as long as the team wins. And I feel like, honestly, like I remember I spoke to Jordan Matthews just before the 2017 season, and he said the way that team was built or intended was that he was told it was to be like Golden State, where if Steph can't go, you've got Clay. If Clay can't go at the time, you've got KD. If KD's boxed in, you've got Draymond. And that's you can see that same mentality there without the drama, without the ego, and that's how it should be. Like, you cannot have that kind of offense if there's going to be egos in the way. And I think that's what they've achieved here. And you've got two brilliant young wide receivers. My heart's with Devonta Smith, just because watching that man run routes is ridiculous.
I think it's also, he's just such a, like AJ Brown, he's just physically gifted. He's big, he's strong, he's fast. Smitty might be smaller than the escaped convict that's running around Kennett Square for the last 7 days, and he plays so much bigger than he is. And I think that's a big part of it. And this is the other thing here, and I love this comment from Tyrone. You know, Howie with the wide receivers, but everything, just getting guys from Georgia, getting guys that are ready. I've been preaching this for a dozen years. Stop going after the small school guys. Go get guys that have won big games in big college moments. They're ready from day one. Tony saying, most anticipated Eagles season ever. I don't know. Maybe?
I'll not be wrong, because I mean, the thing is, everyone's saying, well, 2017, no one saw that coming. Like, no one saw any of it. So even last year, there was an element of, like, I don't know, pleasant surprise, like we said, where they weren't expecting to go to a Super Bowl. So now there's an element of, well, we've been there once, the team's got better, surely they can go back. Like, there is an element, like you said, of that quiet confidence, that anticipation. So it might well be. But I did see one of the comments there. It was Marquise Goodwin from NFL. That's the one.
And Nelson Aguilar.
Yeah, forgot about that.
Yeah, we had some. All right, so Mad Chatter keeps bringing up the running back in the comments. Now, I don't know if you know Mad Chatter, Liam.
It is well important. I'll give him that.
Mad Chatter is in the comments every show, sometimes 3 hours before the show. He just cannot wait to talk football every day. And he's not even an Eagles fan. He's a Buffalo Bills fan. And he knows Buffalo does not. I think the only team that values running back less than the Eagles is Buffalo. But he's asked at least 3 times in the comments, what are your thoughts on this Eagles running back rotation and the way they're going to do it? And I want to rephrase his question more to the way I've been gearing. How do you think it's going to shake out week 1, week 2? Who's going to be getting the touches? How they're going to play it? Yeah. You heard Howie talk about it yesterday a little bit. It's more going to be the hot hand than one lead guy.
It's for me, it's a rock and a hard place, because half of me, after that playoff run where you saw Miles Sanders' targets drop, Kenny Gainwell spiked up like 50%, you were like, oh, well, that's a sign. Gainwell's your guy moving forward. You bring in one more player, and that's your committee set. And then they go and get Penny, and you're like, brilliant, that's the committee set. And then they have an opportunity to bring in DeAndre Swift, and who can blame him? Like, you're not going to turn that down when you're giving up, you know, a bottle of Gatorade for a water bottle of Gatorade for one player, you know, as talented as DeAndre Swift. As far as it shakes out, my heart says I'd like to think Kenny Gainwell is going to be the main guy. Like, I still think he's going to be running back 1. Realistically, I don't think it shakes out like that. It will look like Rashad Penny gets the bulk of carries, because he is the wider, more physical, like girthier, if you will, back. Like, that wider base helps him to really charge through tackles. Gainwell is a bit more elusive. He is going to be. I think the beauty is if you put Gainwell and Swift in the backfield in like a pony formation, that's about as horny as football could get. I know that's language for early in the morning, but both of those backs are versatile. Both could break off down the seam for a run. You can then have like your tight ends, both are dominant there receiving. You've got the receivers out there. I think this running back position is really going to be at its core to elevate Jalen Hurts in that offense. Like, it is, if you're going to run options all the time, you don't know where Swift's going to go. Gainwell can hurt you the tackles, he can hurt you outside. Penny at the goal line, Hurts at the goal line. There is so much to worry about because of the talent that backfield has. I don't think it matters who carries the rock. My only concern is that for Gainwell, this is now going to be year 3. He's still not going to have that year he needs to secure his long-term future in football. And it sucks for young running backs because they're going to come through.
Mad Chatter's reminding me that is not how he asked the question. He asked you think the position is important.
It is well important.
And you saying that he's not going to secure that bag because of it. I don't think Kenneth Gainwell can be a lead back. That's just what I've seen. I think he can only be a complementary piece. And I know he got a lot of touches in the playoffs for Miles Sanders. I still think that it's going to be very difficult to. Everybody's down on Miles Sanders. Miles Sanders had a 1,300 yards and 11 touchdowns last year. Let's not forget about what Miles Sanders did in the regular season. Kenneth Gainwell is not replacing that.
No,
DeAndre Swift's
but
not. Maybe the group as a whole can, but I don't think people realize how hard it is to get 1,300 yards and 11 touchdowns in this NFL as a running back.
yeah, I mean, it does help when you've got that offensive line carving open, like parting the Red Sea for you, I suppose.
Right.
But I think my problem with Sanders wasn't necessarily a knock. It was just that I didn't see him genuinely develop in any aspect from year 1 to year 5. That's not a knock. He was good coming out of college. Like he didn't have to develop to do what he did well. But he had this weird habit of wanting to bounce everything outside. So he'd run out to a hole and just dance on the spot and then bounce and get tackled. That killed him for like 4 years. And then
That's exactly what Kenneth Gainwell did in that preseason game when on the safety.
Yeah, exactly.
Like you're on your own goal line. You got to run. He tried to bounce and like stutter step. He got tackled for a safety. And Kenneth Gainwell did the exact same thing.
Yeah. So, but I think that's where having someone like Penny, who is just your LeGarrette Blount, your Jay Ajayi equivalent, who can get between the tackle. Like people forget when Rashad Penny was healthy, he was among like the most dominant backs in the NFL. There was a period, like a 5-6 week stint in Seattle, where he was like 6 point something yards per carry, and it was just bang, bang, like relentlessly. Like I love Penny. I think he's great, but yeah, I don't know how it's going to shake out. I think it might be matchup based. It could be week by week. But there has to be that selfless mentality the wideouts have. I don't think they'll have it because there is naturally a panic with running back contracts. Even someone like Dalvin Cook, you know, he's one of the most talented backs in the league. You look at what he's now got, the trade that happened there. The template model is Chicago, who had Jordan Howard be one of their most dominant backs, gave him up for chump change, and then got in David Montgomery. He was the same back, just drafted in the heart of the draft. And now he looks like he's on the way out. And then obviously they have Tariq Cohen. Like they're so interchangeable, and it sucks from their perspective because they're going to see wideouts and quarterbacks and every other position in the world get this big money, and it's just not on the table for them anymore. I don't think. But if they can get past that as a team, as long as winning's a priority, this backfield will be the most dangerous in football.
We spent literally an entire show weeks ago when the whole like running back cell phone call happened and Saquon and everybody was arguing. Like, how can running backs change the perception that they're valuable? Because they are valuable. You know what I mean? You can win a Super Bowl, but they're so interchangeable, as you said. Is there something running backs can do, or the NFL could do, to kind of help these guys out a little bit?
If the NFL had like, I don't know, you're only allowed to like slap a running back on the head when you tackle him and that's it. That would work because they're not getting hit and, you know, but just the life cycle of a running back, I think that they take so much contact and so many hits and they get brought down so hard that like someone like Derrick Henry, the reason people aren't going to pony up the money for him is because the guy has been battered and bruised more than a professional boxer at that point. And he just gets used as this battering ram, which is fine. But it's like, how much longer can that go on before you start? Ezekiel Elliott is probably the finest example of that. And he conveniently enough is now with the Patriots, who we're facing week 1. So that's a nice little segue into that discussion, I'm sure. But like, that's another back who was once the best back in the NFL and is now arguably not even the top running back on the Patriots in the space of a few years. Got bullied out by Tony Pollard in Dallas. And I remember that I selected Tony Pollard in my fantasy draft the year he came in. I got laughed at. And I was like, I can see the vision. Zeke is going downhill. Those carries are plummeting. The writing's on the wall. So yeah, it's just a strange year to be a strange time to be a running back. Maybe the NFLPA can do something like every running back has a guarantee of a certain amount of money, so they feel a bit better before sitting on the bench for 8 weeks. But I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, you might see the running back shake out, kind of like how Devonta Smith had a goose egg in week 1 or 2 last year. You know what I mean? You might see Swift or Penny not get anything, and then week 2 or 3, they're the lead guy. It's literally, I think Tyrone said it up here. I really think it plays out as like a quarter by quarter situation. Let's keep going down here. Some of these. What else do we got here? Milton. I don't even know what that means. NFL reaction. What are we talking? Milton Williams now?
Yeah, I saw there was a comment about from the man chat who says Liam seems well clever in it, which I take that that's flirting at that point.
Okay.
But he said Milton Williams, a third rounder, having better stats than Jordan Davis. I think the difference is just the type of player. Jordan Davis, to me, in that year at least, felt very much like a human plug. Like he was
Mhm.
just manning up double teams to the likes of Hassan Reddick. Milton Williams is basically a defensive end with a bulked up defensive end. Like he moves like a linebacker, and he's got the power and the weight of a defensive tackle. So I genuinely think that Jordan Davis, who is just this like 320-pound monster, is able to swallow at pressure to allow those lighter guys on the outside to wreak havoc. And I remember it's a funny story, genuinely a funny story. Well, it's not funny, but it's a story. A few years ago, I did some work for an NFL agent who was trying to get his client, who will remain nameless for this time, but it was an undrafted guy trying to get him tryouts for teams. And he had tryouts for LA for the Chargers and for Houston Texans. I was asked then to present like scheme stuff so he can look at and prepare like questions what he might get asked for, players they've got in that system already, whatever. All three teams that he worked out for, the type of defensive tackles they had were like guys getting 6, 7, 8 sacks a year. The spots they had available realistically, looking at that depth chart, did nothing. Like statistically, it was just heavy snap counts, not a lot. And you watch the tape, and they are just absorbing pressure. They're absorbing double teams. You then put that same philosophy on Jordan Davis, who is now going to be surrounded by Nolan Smith, Jalen Carter, who is probably arguably a much more prolific pass rusher than Davis ever was at Georgia. Like, I think it's there. Davis is there to facilitate the pressure those guys will bring, because you cannot leave Jordan Davis on his own because he is too physically dominant. You're going to have to either isolate him or double team him. And if you double, someone's open somewhere else on that line. And there is too much star power on that defensive line to go unnoticed. So that would be my counter. Like, yeah, it's in the same way that Fletcher Cox doesn't do a lot of his damage anymore through sacks, but he commands so much attention that defense ended up getting 70 sacks last year. I don't think Jordan Davis is going to care if he got 2 sacks.
I've said it that Jordan Davis is like, I'm not an analytics type guy. Like, I just like the basic stats in all sports. Give me RBIs, home runs. Give me, your 3-point shooting percentage. Give me your sacks and tackles. That's me. That's old school me. But Jordan Davis is going to be a guy you're going to have to look at the more detailed analytical stats. How many times did he get double teamed? What's his percent? How many times does he win off the block or something like that? That's what you're going to, because he's not going to show up in the flash stats. He's just not.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's kind of like Milton Williams. Like Milton Williams last year. I did a thing on Twitter yesterday, my 5 most underrated Eagles entering this season. And Milton Williams is my most underrated Eagle because people think he's not much, but in his, if you go stat by stat, like more analytically, in his 36% of the snaps, he was very effective if you base it off of certain percentages. So Jordan Davis is going to be one of those guys where you're going to have to really look beyond the stat sheet to see what he's doing.
I think the equivalent would be if you were to look at a starting pitcher in baseball that's got like a 5 earned run average. See, even I can do baseball now. I'm getting good at this. If you've got a starting pitcher in baseball that's got like a 5 ERA, and you've got, someone that comes out of the bullpen that's got a 0.87, but, has a ton of strikeouts and pitches 2 innings a game, obviously that guy's going to look better because in a smaller sample size, he's coming in favourable spots where everyone's worn down to clean up. And that's fine. But your main heavy hitter, your starting pitchers who are going 5, 6 innings, obviously going to give up more hits because they're on the field longer. That's the equivalent. Like Milton Williams is that quick and that explosive. You want him in after an 8, 9 play series when the offensive line is just tired. And you've got someone there that can bend the edge like a defensive end and rip through people like a defensive tackle. That's where his value is. And that's why his stats are going to look a bit different.
All right. I want. This is funny because we're going to talk New England. We're going to talk Eagles, New England in a second. But Tony, bringing up Jalen Hurts here, if he went to look, first off, before I even ask the question, Tony, if Jalen Hurts goes down for 5, 6 weeks, I don't care who the backup is, we're in trouble. If any quarterback in the NFL goes down for 5 to 6 weeks, the backup's never as good. But I know Liam is a huge Tanner McKee. He's a McKeester. He is. So what happens if Jalen Hurts goes down? How much of a dumpster fire does this season become?
Realistically, the thing is, all you need with that team, I think, is a game manager. Like, you can get, it depends on the stint. Like, if Hurts goes down week 11 and you've got Chiefs, Bills, Niners, Seahawks coming up, it might be time to wave the white flag, I think, for a bit. But at the end of the day, everyone looks at Marcus Mariota's preseason as a massive red flag. But was there not a scenario a couple of years ago where someone like Chase Daniel had like a horrific preseason and everyone's like, oh, it's doomed. And then he comes in, manages the game, and it's fine. Like, you're not trying to win games. You've got someone there in Mariota who can execute the same system. And the beauty of that system is that if the quarterback can't go, if there's no throws, You've got running backs. If the running backs are taken up because a safety comes down, there's going to be room over the field somewhere. As long as he isn't literally incompetent with a football, which in fairness he did look like in preseason, there should be some level of like confidence there. I don't think McKee yet would be the guy. I'd like to think down the line, but they wouldn't put him in to run that system as a QB3. Like, it sucks they gave Mariota a $5 million guaranteed. Otherwise, like, there would be some leeway.
Do you think if Howie would have known Tanner McKee would have had such a great camp, he might not have given Mariota that money? Do you think if Mariota was under like a 2-year deal or $2 million deal, he would have gotten cut or something like that?
The difference is though, like it's mentality, isn't it? Because Mariota's someone that's been there and done it. He's been around the NFL long enough. He's been a starter. He's been a backup. He's been on the fringe of playoff games. He's had a lead in Russia. He's done just about everything there is outside of win like substantial games in the postseason. So you've got someone that is well versed enough now to carry that torch. I don't think McKee is. Like, you wouldn't want, if it's week 13, the Eagles winning they're in the postseason. If they lose, Dallas are on their back. They've got a game at Jerry World. And then it's McKee in Jerry World against that Dallas secondary. You're like, all right, all of a sudden now you're starting to worry a little bit. I do genuinely feel as though that Marcus Mariota is well versed enough to stay calm and execute the offense as needed. As much as I love Tanner McKee, he might well do it, but you wouldn't want to put that pressure on a 6th-round quarterback as a rookie. And that's where Mariota's value comes. I'd like to think. I can't guarantee.
That's been what I've been preaching on this show since. Like, Marcus Mariota, I don't have his stats in front of me right now, but I want to say that his career, quarterback rating is like in the mid 80s. Like, he's won a lot of games. I know a lot of it early in his career in Tennessee, but he's a very, very smart guy. He's not going to be throwing to Joseph Nagata or Deion Kane. Exactly, yeah. He's not going to have Sua Peta and a bunch of other ragtag guys blocking for him. He's going to have A.J. Brown, Devonta Smith. He's going to have Jason Kelce under center with him. He's never played with a team like that. So I would be much more confident in the veteran presence. Somebody said here, remember when Mark Sanchez had to come in to take over for Nick Foles? I mean, you're getting Marcus Mariota, a guy that's been there, done that, like you said, and he might not inspire like Jalen Hurts, but at least he's got the experience over Tanner McKee. So I would be much more confident with Marcus Mariota at this point.
And at a base level, the one thing Mariota did really well in preseason was run. He took off like a couple of huge gains. And if you just go in there and tell him, like, let's say it's 4th quarter, you're down by 7, and you've got to see it out because Hurts goes off with a knock. It's like, right, if your first option isn't there, run. That's it. That's your whole assignment. If that check down isn't there, you run. If you can't run, you throw the check down. 50-50 every time. You'll be okay. He doesn't have to start throwing 40-yard passes deep down the field. You don't need him to do that. He just has to survive. I think in this system, he can do that. So we'll be all right.
This is actually really interesting from NFL Reality Check. Gives you Wentz vibes. But I've talked about this. What's that?
I don't think anything would give me Carson Wentz vibes. I mean,
I don't even know if NFL Reality Check has been watching the show, but I've been talking about Jalen Hurts inspires. Tanner McKee kind of had a little bit of that inspiration, albeit in a preseason game. Mariota has this drab, dry personality. Like, when he goes into the huddle, like Carson Wentz goes in the huddle, do the players look at him and feel like, yes, whatever play he calls is going to work because he called it. Carson Wentz was not a leader. I don't know if Marcus Mariota is, but at least Marcus Mariota has the experience.
There's that bit of respect there, though. That's the difference. Mariota is, like I said, he's a known commodity in the NFL. He's played with A.J. Brown before. There's an element there of familiarity.
Look at 74 career starts in the NFL. Yeah. If something happens, this is the guy and the right call at this point.
With Carson Wentz, what a lot of people forget is that Eagles locker room became very, very cliquey. And so I don't know how much we can get. Obviously, it's all water under the bridge and whatever. But at the time, it was very apparent that there was like a clear clique of Carson Wentz and his buddies that were all invested religiously in the same things. They would all go to church together, whatever. And then, but you've got the guys that maybe don't have those same beliefs and they don't share them, but then they feel a bit alienated. You've then got the hunting thing where he buys his whole offensive line hunting weapons. Great for someone like Lane Johnson, great for someone like Fletcher Cox. The other guys didn't necessarily take to that. They did feel a bit fractured, in the same way. Jalen Hurts is just a gym rat who loves football. Everyone on that football team loves football because they're football players. It's an easy thing to get behind. So there's a lot more relatability there with that. With Carson, there wasn't, and it was like the winning made up for it to a certain degree. And then once the wheels started and there were fractures and there was complaining and the pissing contests, like people just, it wasn't enough to keep them invested. Like you could be on the same page as your quarterback having like family religious views and it not be enough. Like Jordan Matthews, bless it. I remember he told me that Carson Wentz's dog had puppies and he gave one to Jordan Matthews. But there was an element of like that super like group of just, it was like him, Burton, a couple others that all shared the exact same things. And the rest of the team just were a bit not quite there. And so back with the hero ball with Carson Wentz, that worked for like 2 years. But it's like blackjack. If you double down and double down and double down, eventually you're going to bust. Like you can't win them all. And you started to see it. Like it worked for 2 years. And then all of a sudden, those dumb decisions that at the time were being called heroic were then being punished because people realized, well, you just press your corners a bit further down and you'll be all right. So, yeah, I think Marcus Mariota will be fine to manage your offense. He's a different type of cat than Carson
But if
Wentz.
but back to the original question, if it's 5-6 games, it doesn't matter if it's Marcus Mariota, Tanner McKee, anything. We're in trouble. If it's 2 games, you can get by. Like we lost the 2 games that Gardner Minshew started last year. We were fine. You know what I mean? Like 2 games is one thing. 5 to 6 games, completely
it's like
different story.
You've got to bank the wins early. Bank them in. Let the implosion happen later. You're fine.
Yeah.
You know, just make sure you bank it along the way.
That's why coming out, because it's really interesting. So let's transition to this week. We actually haven't spent any time yet this week really talking Patriots Eagles yet. So let's roll that into it, because there are some people like me that think that this is a cakewalk. This Patriots team is not going to be good as long as Mac Jones is the quarterback. And then there's other people that think it's going to be a really close, tough game. They're playing into the Tom Brady, retirement ceremony beforehand and all that. You said something very important there. You just got to get the wins early. The easier part of the schedule is the first 7-8 weeks. It is imperative that they come out, on fire right from the get-go, week 1, and take care of business, so that when week 10, 12 happens, whoever's injured, whatever's going on, you have the cushion. If you have to lose a game, you lose a game.
Yeah, exactly. This matchup is interesting because there are some players that do, like someone like Christian Gonzalez, for instance, at corner is great. But realistically, you've still got so many other weapons on that offense. So you can have Christian Gonzalez take off AJ Brown. All right, well, who's got Devonta Smith? You have Jalen Mills come down from the top and roll and rock him. Lovely. Oh, that's a touchdown all day.
I didn't even know Jalen Mills was still there. I have the depth chart up here on my side screen, and I thought he got cut or didn't get re-signed. Didn't even know he was there.
Knocking about. But I mean, the only genuine concern I have on that Patriots team is the obvious one, and that's Matt Judon. Because when you've got a player that productive, that scary, it's going to be a concern. Especially, I mean, their whole thing, I guarantee, will be to knock Jalen Hurts quick. Whether it's a sack, whether it's like a late flag, they won't care. Just get in his head, just thump him, stop him wanting to run and stuff. So I mean, we started Puppygate. That's the thing. Yeah, he's not Prince Harry. Unfortunately, he's not as well liked as Prince Harry. But yeah, like the Patriots they'll want to rough Jalen Hurts up because they won't want him running. They'll want to try and stop the run. But in reality, if Hurts is confident and composed enough to absorb that pressure, the offensive line's good enough, it won't matter. The Pats do have some interesting pieces on offense. There is a couple of nice like wide receivers they've got, but nothing that screams danger against Slay and Bradbury. Elliott, again, lost a step. I don't think he's going to be as impressive as we think. And Mac Jones is turnover prone. It will be a test of that linebacking group. I'll give it that. It's going to be a very interesting test to see how Nagobi Dean fares. That group has now been decimated. Like Miles Jack came in for 2 weeks and went, retiring. So that's great. So, I mean, like, you're going to have a few interesting matchups there, but this is a game the Eagles should comfortably be winning, I think, week 1.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I look at it, and their defense is decent, the Patriots, obviously. But you bring up Nakobe Dean, and I think I'm not worried about Ezekiel Elliott. I'm not even really worried about Stevenson that much. Mac Jones, I mean, wasn't there a game last year where he only threw the ball like 3 times or something like that?
I probably had him in DFS. That's what happened there. I put him in DraftKings. He just went, nah.
That's the way it always works. But like Mac Jones just doesn't scare me. And I'm looking at the linebackers against the running backs, even though Ezekiel Elliott's not whatever. The offensive line is beat up for the Patriots. I look at Hunter Henry and I look at Mike Gesicki and I look at the running backs and I look at that is the first thing my eyes go to. What does a bad quarterback do? They dump off to tight ends and running backs. And I think it's the first game is a great first test for Nakobe Dean, Zach
Oh,
Cunningham,
yeah.
whoever else will be out there covering those tight ends because Hunter Henry's a little older now, and Gesicki never really took off in Miami like I thought he would. But they're two very good pass catching tight ends. Two good pass tight ends and a running back. You know, Nakobe Dean's got to be right. I put him in on number 2 yesterday on my list of most important Eagles not named Jalen Hurts this season, and
He
he
really
gets
is.
that test right from the
Is.
get go.
I mean, because there wasn't an insurance policy for him. I mean, like Nicholas Morrow, maybe could have been, did nothing. He's barely on the practice squad. Miles Jack retired. That leaves you with Zach Cunningham, who has some experience, but not quite enough. So, like, it is all on the Kobe Dean. It has to be.
Mm-hmm.
And it sucks because he is going to be, put under that spotlight. There's no help around him. There was that scaring training camp where Dean went down with injury, and you're like, well, who's next? That's concerning. So that he has to be good. It has, and you've got it, like you said, first test. Hunter Henry never lived up to the hype, in my opinion. Gesicki, same sort of thing. Ramondre Stevenson is a hell of a running back, but again, you put all of them together, and all of a sudden it is a headache, and they're gonna try and confuse him. Like, it's going to be a very interesting game to see how composed Nakobe Dean is. Can he sift through traffic? Is he able to scrape the line when they're trying to hunt for running backs? Like, how is his coverage? Is he going to be patient? Is he going to get a bit twitchy? Like, there's a lot on there that people are obviously just assuming, like, I'll be fine. It's Nakobe Dean. He's from Georgia. That's great. And it's like, it is, and it might be, but this is going to be a test. And make no mistake, the Eagles should win this game. But Nakobe is very much going to be the heartbeat of that victory defensively, if that's going to happen.
And this is exactly what I was just about to follow up Lee and K1 with, is the O-line's trash, too, for the Patriots. Yeah. We worry about the tight ends and the running backs, but they've already got, 2 of their guys on IR? 2 of their starters are already on IR for the Patriots from the O-line? Like, we've just spent how much time talking about Milton Williams, Jordan Davis, Fletcher Cox, all these guys. They're going to feast. They're not going to be able to drop back and pass much because Mac Jones will be under massive pressure with this line, but they're also not going to be able to open up the running lanes for Stevenson or Elliott. So, I don't understand where the people are coming from thinking that this is going to be a close game. Or I've seen it, and somebody asked it a few minutes ago, where the Eagles get their first loss. There are actually people predicting in Philadelphia that the Eagles are going to lose this game. And I try to look at it objectively, Liam, and I can't objectively find a way the Eagles lose this game.
I don't think this one. I mean, it might be tight. The worry is Bill Belichick. You never want to play Bill Belichick at Gillette. Like, there's that element. It's Tom Brady. Like, a lot goes into that. So it's the whole, like, they'll be fired up. But Tom Brady hasn't been. Tom Brady went to another team. He's not this like lifer that everyone loves. Like, yes, he's the greatest quarterback of all time. He's the best thing the Pats have ever done. But it's been like 5 years. You can't keep revisiting that, for an adrenaline hit. Like, you've had it now. He left once. He retired it once. He's now come back. It's like, okay, like, they just let them play football. In terms of the first loss, I don't want to say week 2 against the Vikings. The Vikings could be a trap game week 2. The Vikings, Kirk Cousins is that pain in the ass quarterback that isn't good enough to kill you, but good enough to scrape by if your team wobbles a bit. Outside of that, I think the Jets could be. That's the one, like Aaron Rodgers there. Dolphins, I don't think there's much to worry about. Especially if Tua's health things continue. It would probably the Chiefs. If it's not the Jets, it'll be the Chiefs. I think that's going to be the one.
I got the Jets as the first loss of the season for the Eagles as well. A lot of people are picking the Dolphins, but the Dolphins are going to be looking ahead because the Dolphins have the Patriots and the Chiefs the next 2 weeks after that game there. So real quick, pausing the action here. You're watching Trending in the AM right here on Philadelphia Sports Network. We've got 19 likes only. Not good enough, guys. It's free to hit that like button. 19 likes on YouTube, 6 on Facebook. Share it out. Tell a friend. This is the only place where your opinions matter. We're trying to roll through as many of these comments as we can with Liam here, our special guest. Liam, what does he think of Zach Cunningham 2020? Well, 2020 was a long time ago, man. But 2020, I don't even remember what I was doing half of 2020.
I was having breakdowns on Twitch. That's what I was doing in 2020. So that shows how far away that was. And he's good. It's a desired product, right? Like, Sean desires familiarity with him. But if he was that good, he would have figured a lot more in training camp and preseason. And he didn't. I feel like every linebacker addition they brought in was very underwhelming. I think it's safe to say. Like, so Nakobe Dean very much is. It went from the joke to, help me, Nakobe, one, you're my only hope. It literally is. Like, there is no one else now that is going to be able to hold that torch. The only benefit is that Reddick and Nolan Smith are both technically kind of half outside linebackers. They're going to drop in coverage, so you don't need a massive position a group of depth there, as long as Nakobe can hold the middle, it's still a lot of weight on his shoulders. So I think.
I think you bring up Zach Cunningham, and we'll get to Marshawn. We'll get to your over/under joke in a second. But like Zach Cunningham, injury prone. DeAndre Swift, injury prone. Rashad Penny, injury prone. Did Howie Roseman go out and get two? Like, to me, the biggest concern or question mark for me this season, Howie Roseman had a great offseason, but he brought in a bunch of pieces that have some history. And that
Yeah,
does, because there's not a lot of depth behind, like DeAndre Swift. The depth behind him is Penny, also injury. Zach Cunningham, injury history. The depth behind him is Nicholas Morrow in the practice squad. So like a
yeah.
couple of those moves do concern me, but there's like 3 of those, and that's it.
Yeah, and you've got to think as well, like the Eagles were kind of cap strapped, knowing that they somehow brought back both Slay and Bradbury. They had to pay Jalen Hurts 255 mil.
Mm-hmm.
Kelsey came back. Not many people expected that would happen.
Mm-hmm.
Brandon Graham came back. Not many people expected that would happen.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like at the expense of, it's like risk v reward. Would you rather have all those guys or lose Kelsey, Graham, not have Jalen Hurts play out a contract, and he goes into this season looking to prove it there, and there is a massive payday at the end of it if Burrow gets paid or something. Like, it's the right call. It's just like no team's ever going to be perfect. You have to suck up some stuff and be like, we're going to be weak here for a bit. And Howie has gone, oh no, it's linebacker. That sucks. Oh, I'm always really intent on building the linebacker position. Well, how are we ever going to cope without good linebackers? So, like, it's if there's ever a position for the Eagles to not care about, the fact it's linebacker, which he's never cared about, isn't the worst thing in the world.
But back to Marshawn, over under 9 sacks on Sunday. I'm going to say the under, but only because I don't think Bill Belichick lets Mac Jones drop back enough time to get sacked 9 times.
And the thing is, we don't know what Desai's defense looks like. I'm hoping there'll be some element of what it looks like in Chicago. There will be some off coverage, which means you are going to see a lot of comebacks, a lot of curls, a lot of slants. That's the only way you beat it. The Eagles won't want to get beaten downfield. If they're smart, they'll entice it. They'll play a lot of man coverage, a lot of press, and they'll want to push those deeper outs, which will let then the pressure build from the defensive line. I just can't see it, manifesting. Belichick, I can't wait for Jalen Reagor to get one catch for 3 yards and him just tweet a bunch of devil emojis and Drake lyrics. I tweeted it the other day, but he just will. It's the sort of guy he is. He's just going to put up like a slant catch and then be like a highlight reel of him just running a slant for like 15 seconds. It's just, I don't know. I gave up on Reagan. Yeah, Tyrone's got a point. Yeah.
You actually bringing up the defense. It's interesting because the scheme with Sean Desai, and I don't know. Like, so I was listening to Nick Sirianni's press conference yesterday, and he brought up, or somebody asked him. Let me see my notes here. I didn't say who asked him, but asked him about Sean Desai's scheming and stuff like that. And he said, well, we ran a very vanilla defense. I thought actually we ran a lot less vanilla of a defense in preseason than you're used to. Like, there's still more tricks in it. I think that is like one of the biggest, I don't want to say question marks, but areas where we might be surprised as Eagles fans that Sean Desai, I kept saying at first that it was 1 year in Chicago, they were awful, when he was a defense coordinator, but that was one really bad team run by Nagy, and it was just an awful situation in Chicago. We might have a gem in our hands there with Sean Desai.
I agree. I think that the biggest credit you can give him is the fact that he's very versatile with his players. He will happily line guys up. The difference between him and Gannon is that he would drop Fletcher Cox back into coverage for no reason and then let the linebackers pressure. And it's like, well, there has to be an element of like getting the guys who are comfortable doing it. Someone like Jalen Carter can drop back into coverage. Someone like Nolan Smith, someone like Hassan Reddick can do it. But you can't just ask like random guys to do it and pretend you're a genius. Not when like the only reason you even survive in Philadelphia is because you've got that much talent. It's impossible to mess it up. And that's the only reason you got out scot-free. So, like, you've now got a coordinator with a ton of versatile pieces. Like, my bold prediction, genuinely, funnily enough, as we just saw on the screen there, is Keely Ringo or potentially Sidney Brown ending up being this, like, star player. Not as star as in, like, an all-star, but as in that, like, star defender. Like the Tyrann Mathieu that can go slot over the top, in the box. He will just be everywhere doing everything. I think both players suit that skill set. It's probably going to be Ringo, just because I think that Sidney Brown is going to have a more prominent role as that second safety. You can't really drag him away from that. But you've got a player there that is so talented in Ringo that he has got the wingspan of dreams. He's aggressive at the catch point. He's very fluid in his movement. he's going to be a real, I think, be a force to be reckoned with on this defense from like week 3 or 4. As soon as he gets going, you'll just see like he's that extra man on there. Like they'll take out a linebacker and you'll have Hassan Reddick one side, and you'll have maybe Eli Ricks, maybe Keely Ringo just the other, to be that guy to carry a tight end down the field, to have the speed, to jump up and intercept that ball. Like, that's the kind of thing I foresee, which you wouldn't get under Jonathan Gannon, because he's too busy just sat there doing crosswords while the players do what they want, and Chauncey Gardner-Johnson cries about it. So it's a very different looking defense. There will be a lot of misdirection. And you've got, again, guys like Reddick who can line up in any hole on that defensive line, he'll set over. That's the beauty of it. And that's where I think a lot of people will be surprised for sure.
Yeah, I think Sean, you see it with all the videos from training camp, all the practices and all, just the creativity, like you say. And Ringo might play everywhere. Sidney Brown might play everywhere. They had Terrell Edmonds, playing linebacker. They had, I think I even saw a clip that Jalen Carter dropped back into coverage at one point in practice. This summer, the creativity there is something that I think it's, again, talking about Howie Roseman being progressive with the 53-man roster at first, everything. I think what you're going to see from Sean Desai in this defense is kind of the trend of where the NFL eventually will be going, but we just might be one of the first teams doing it, and other teams' offenses might not be able to be prepared how to handle, Darius Slay or James Bradbury, an outside guy, line up in the slot, Edmonds playing them. So many things are going to go on there that I think I don't even know what to expect at this point.
Well, it sounds very silly as well, but a lot of it's going to be number-based, because now obviously the defense can change their jersey numbers and stuff. It sounds really basic, but you've got to think, like, if you're used to seeing 90s up front, 50s in the middle, 20s and 30s at the back, and because you don't have enough time to study teams and be like, oh, Darius is good at this. You look at, right, 53 is the Mike, 58 is this guy's going to come down on a weak side blitz. Like, and you're going off numbers, and you look up and you've got 21 over the middle, you've got like 48 back there, and it's like, that's going to be the killer. I think we saw it, I want to say last year, I can't remember which team, but there was a Mike Duck clip and one of the quarterbacks got confused about it. So I think that's also good. It's an under the radar thing, but just that positionless defense is going to be a real thing to watch.
Tyrone saying Ringo's hips are stiff, better suited for safety. That is something more for Liam, that studies these films a lot more than me.
The thing is, my weakness for cornerbacks is very tall, 6'2", 6'3". They've got the streets are calling you Howie Roach, man. That's right. Hang on, bro. I'm just being abused at this point. Liam needs to up his facial hair. Look, this is my November.
Somebody just said you look like you're in a dorm room in college, or as you British call it, university.
This is my flat, my little flat. It's up for sale, sure, but it's currently my flat for this. It's not mine, but it's lovely. The facial hair, unfortunately, is that's all I can do. I'm afraid I can't get to.
No, not everybody can have a great beard in the morning like me.
Like, if I'm sat next to Phil, I could have a beard; it would look irrelevant because Phil's is just perfect, So, but this is the most I've ever had.
Didn't you hear? I have to shave my beard. Didn't you hear that?
Really? No.
Yeah. So that's how I won my. I don't know if you even heard. I won WrestleMania tickets on the radio.
Yeah.
And the thing was, you had to call in and offer to do something, and I offered to shave my beard live on their show for WrestleMania tickets, and that won me the WrestleMania tickets. So I don't know when I got to do this, but there is going to be a point in time in the what's WrestleMania, like 8 months away? Sometime between now and WrestleMania in April, the beard's going to get shaven just for one day. I'll start growing it the next day again, but it's going to be the first time shaven in a long time.
I will join you. I'll even shave my beard, Phil. How's that? I'll get rid of mine. I'll go with you.
Oh man. Anyway, so you're feeling pretty confident this Sunday. We got about 15 minutes left in the show, because I want to move on to another topic with you. But you're feeling pretty confident this Sunday going into this game against the Patriots, right?
Yeah. I mean, for what's the spread like betting wise? Like 4.5?
It was 4. I don't know if it's changed. I teased it up to minus 6.5 to get better than even money, because I do think the Eagles do win by 10. Haven't made an official prediction yet, but I figured a minus 6.5 got it up to plus 122. And I thought that was a pretty safe number to go up to.
Yeah. I mean, the only thing is the whole Belichick mystique. Like, it's Belichick, it's at home, it's season opener, it's the Patriots, it's Tom Brady, like, retirement, whatever, for the 8th time. So, like, there's going to be an element of, like, the Patriots wanting to play hard. I just think the Eagles have too much talent, where even if they come out 70%, they're going to be enough to get by. There are concerns. There's the fact that Nakobe is going to have the workload of a lifetime. You're interested to see how guys like Nolan Smith and Jalen Carter perform. But when all's said and done, that offense is so good and there's so much talent on it that the Pats defense to win this game is going to have to put up at least 30. I can't see it when the Eagles are going to outscore them by like 10 anyway. Like if the Pats score 30, it's not going to be enough because the Eagles will have 40. If the Pats put up 40, the Eagles will have 50. So I just can't see it. I think it's going to be a fairly comfy Eagles win. Even if there is elements early on, maybe it's the turnover, maybe it's sloppy, maybe Jalen Hurts throws a pick. But overall, I think they're going to win.
Yeah, it's free bet and it's free to like, share. Thank you, Tony. I appreciate that. Mad Chatter's asked like 14 times in the comments section. He does want to know what you think of his Buffalo Bills real quick.
The thing is, I was a massive Devin Singletary guy. I wanted him in Philadelphia so bad. So I was a huge Singletary guy. I like the way they've built the backfield. Josh Allen, I don't think he is as good as Mahomes. I think Mahomes gets the credit a lot, but everyone inflates Josh Allen because of the stats. But realistically, I hate debating quarterbacks because like you're going to initially go, oh well, they've got help, and if you didn't have help, they'd be terrible. But it'd be the same with anyone. But Josh Allen isn't as good as a lot of people think he is, in my opinion. I think the team's good. I like the defense. I like the running backs. I love the fact Stephon Diggs is still there. I just don't think Josh Allen is as good. He's still a top 5 quarterback. He's just not second in line.
Could you imagine Josh Allen having the regular season but not playoff success he's had in Philadelphia and what the Philadelphia media would be saying about him on a daily basis? That's just whenever I talk or Josh Allen, that's all that I think of in the back of my head.
The one thing that Josh Allen did, to his credit, was have a seismic leap, the same level Jalen Hurts did. There was a 1 year where he just came out swinging, and it was like everything clicked. And you cannot take that away from him. Like, he is in the upper echelon of NFL quarterbacks. The issue is that people give Allen more credit than the Bills. The Bills team does a lot of the heavy lifting. There are times, I swear there was a 3-week period last year where Josh Allen was horrible for like 2-3 weeks in a row. And the Bills got by and got out of it, and then just in time for like December, January, he caught. I might be wrong. Mad Chat will be able to tell me, but I could have swore there was a 2 to 3 week period where he was throwing picks like more than time. There's still too much volatility there. I think that's the concern. But overall, Bills are a good team, probably the second best in the AFC. They'll obviously be Super Bowl contenders. I just prefer Joe Burrow, not just because I look like him, but I just think he is the better quarterback. But that's a debate for another day, I'm sure.
Yeah, and then Diggs and Allen having some problems as well. That's all that would be. Hell, K1, we'd be talking about it every single morning on this show as well. And that's what's so special. And this is bring it back to the Eagles here. This is what's so special about this Eagles team is the lack of drama, the lack of leadership. It literally is all about the Eagles logo and not the name on the back of the jersey. It's 100%. It's team and culture before your individualness on this team. And it starts with Jalen Hurts, Howie Roseman, Nick Sirianni, and most importantly, Jeffrey Lurie, that has built this culture into this thing. And that's the difference between Philly and Buffalo right now.
Yeah, 100%. And it's like I would be very intrigued to see. I think that's the matchup I'm most looking forward to, put it that way. I think that is genuinely the most exciting one. We've seen Eagles Chiefs a few times now in this era. We know the teams match up well. They should have won the Super Bowl had it not been for the turf, or Jonathan Gannon just simply existing. We all agree that. Eagles and Bills, we haven't really seen, I don't think, over the past few years. And it's exciting because they do collide very well. Both teams have great corners. Both teams have great receivers. Both teams have great quarterbacks. There's a lot there to look forward to. That could be the game of the year for me. I really do. In terms of just the hype, that week leading up to, I can't wait for it. I think it's week 14, I want to say, 13, 14.
Week 12 is Buffalo.
Oh, that's close. Never mind.
Yeah, close. I actually think the Eagles, and this breaks my heart because Mad Chatter is in the comments every day. I actually think that's the second loss of the season for the Eagles. Because we're going to come off a win. We're going to come off beating the Chiefs the week before. The Bills have a bye in week 13. I think it all lines up that the Eagles maybe have a little bit of a letdown there in week 12 against Buffalo. But I hope not, because then Mad Chatter will be, insufferable every single day in the comment section for the rest of this. His team could go 1-16, but as long as it's beating our Eagles, that's all that matters. Eagles Bills over under is going to be like 65. It may be. It very well may be. Real quick, you're a gambler. You love to gamble.
No, girlfriend's here. No comment. I'm joking. I'm winding you up.
My wife doesn't know. She doesn't know anything about what I do, except for when she's watching. On the once every 6 months she watches, and she was watching yesterday. Let me just tell you a funny story. She hasn't watched the show since April, probably. I made a joke about her on the show yesterday, and there she is popping in the comments. Like one show every 6 months. The time I mention her, she's commenting. That's great. But anyway, so betting wise this year, I made 2 MVP bets, and I want to know what your thoughts are. I bet Jalen Hurts MVP 11 to
Nice.
1. I bet one Eagle every year to win. I bet the quarterback basically every year to win the MVP. But I actually really do like the Hurts MVP at 11 to 1. I
Yeah, yeah.
also bet Trevor Lawrence 15 to 1 to be MVP. Oh, you don't like that one.
I'm not
If
a
it's
Trevor Lawrence
so, the
guy.
question is, if it's not Jalen Hurts winning the MVP and you had to lay a shekel or two on an
Yeah.
MVP bet, who would you be betting on in the NFL?
I don't know. I mean, I think the obvious answer is Mahomes just every year outright, but that's why the price is so short. I think by far the best value bet is Jalen Hurts. There is no way he should be 11 to 1. Not at all.
Yeah.
Because a lot of people are, oh, he's 11 to 1 because the schedule's tougher. But realistically, if he comes through this season and he beats the Chiefs and he beats the Bills and he beats the Niners and he beats the Chiefs, there is no doubt he's MVP. Not in anyone's mind. If he beats the best this league has to offer, not once in a row, not 1 week, not 2 weeks, but like 3 Super Bowl contenders. If he can beat 2 of the 3 and lead that team to a playoff berth and win the NFC East for the first time, repeat since 2004, and win the NFC Champ, there is no doubt he's MVP. So it's like, if he has a season like last year, he wins it. And it's like, I think that upside at 11 to 1 is ridiculous, and that's not priced in, and that concerns me. So,
Yeah.
yeah.
Normally, like, I bet Nick Castellanos 100 to 1 to be the MVP for the Phillies. I bet, I bet Bryce Harper a few years ago when he won the MVP, but I always do it like $2 or $3 here or there. Like, I saw that 11 to 1, and I put like 3 times what I normally bet. Still
Yeah.
tiny bet, but I just saw 11 to 1, and everything you just said, I'm like, he should be 6 to 1, 7 to
Yeah,
1.
100. It's so weird, like seeing the guys who are ahead of him. I think Justin Herbert's ahead of him. I'm like, there is no chance he wins. Oh, that's going to come back, but I don't think he's going to win MVP.
Yeah, no, absolutely. So real quick, I want to, we got 5 minutes left in the show. I do want to ask you about that comment. I know you got to wrap this up. There's somebody asked earlier in the show about football in the UK, and we spent a lot of time in the off season. One show somehow the topic came up about an expansion team in the UK and stuff like that. And it was a long conversation. I didn't expect it to go on like that. And there's a couple people that said that it'll never happen an expansion team in the UK because everybody in the UK already has their favorite NFL team. And like you're not going to give up your Eagles fandom because the Jaguars move to London or something like that. And it'd be very hard. Will there ever come a day where an NFL team can be, based out of London or somewhere in the UK?
Logistically is the issue because you're going to have like
Absolutely.
8-9 weeks where people are come out and you have to sell out that stadium or get close to it, depending where the stadium. If it's Wembley and it's like 80,000 seats, it's going to be tough. But at the minute, it's seen as like a privilege where your team comes over, you're gonna go because you haven't seen them all the time. I wonder, like even someone like Manchester United, they don't sell out their stadium week on week. I think the NFL is so money driven. I don't know how it will work. But the growth over here is exceptional. Like there is our sports, like you've got Fox Sports, our Sky Sports is the equivalent. Have their own NFL channel that is 24/7, like the NFL Network. They'll show live games, talk shows, interviews, whatever. There is a lot more of it here. Like when I was first a fan, I swear to God, someone came into my old workplace with a Giants cap on, and I was like, "Oh, you're a Giants fan?" He's like, "What's a Giant?" He literally said, "What's a Giant?" I was like, it's your hat. I was like, you're wearing it. You tell me. I'm trying to make conversation. But you're now seeing, like, if you see a jersey out and about, you're like, oh, cool, fat. And there's like a mutual nod and you can like talk to people about it, which is like, it is fun. Yeah, there is a lot more like supporter groups. There's people that are just excited about the NFL. And like, even my girlfriend ended up watching the Super Bowl with me for the first half. She went to bed and was like, oh, did the Eagles win? I was like, yeah, it went bad after you went to bed. Don't worry about it.
But I think you guys are like the most passionate football fans, especially like when the Eagles, like for you being an Eagles fan, I mean, they play on Thursday night or Sunday night football. 8:20 for me is a late start time because I got to wake up to do the show and work all day the next day. For you, I mean, it's a late night for you.
The thing is, like, the takes get so delirious because it's like the game starts at around 1. So by the time it finishes, it's like 5. By the time I've done the recap, it's like 6. And then you're going to bed and the sun's coming up and you're just lying there, like your heart's pounding because you've had 3 coffees in the last hour and I'm getting old. I'm getting too old for it. I don't have the dog in me like I used to. I'm losing it.
No, that's the passion right there of a fan, because I would never do it. Anyway, we're going to start the wrap up process here at Trending in the AM. Again, we've got Liam, the boss man. I got him up. Well, not up. He was already up, but I got him on here today, guys, for you guys, and I greatly appreciate it. Again, we've only got 20 likes on this video on YouTube, 6 on Facebook. It is free to like. If you're watching this show on replay, I do go back and check all the comments. I do respond to all the comments. So make sure if you're watching on replay and you have any thoughts, you let us know. Liam, do the Eagles win the Super Bowl this year?
Yes.
That was not a very confident guess.
It was like, I'm not sure, like 50-50. I think they'll make it. I think they'll make the Super Bowl. But,
I told Liam today was going to be the day that we got the $500 super chat, Eric, and it just didn't happen, man.
I thought it'd be the good luck. Well, I'm not coming up for another year now. That's my
exactly. We won't have you back on until next year this time before the season starts. But anyway, you weren't very confident in that Super Bowl pick.
Nah, it's a long way. A lot can happen between now and January, isn't it? Like I think they win the NFC Championship. I'll back that. Whether it's I think a Super Bowl is always a coin flip, and I don't know. But I just want to say really quickly, like a massive thank you to all you guys who I do watch the show most mornings. Like I know I come in with some chaotic like chats every now and again, but the fact that you guys have taken to Phil, like we've made it was for me it was a no-brainer to bring Trending in the AM to PSN. But the fact you give it so much love, you're there every morning supporting Phil. The conversation's brilliant, and I know PSN, you know, at heart was always like my baby. To know that I can give that spotlight to Phil in full trust that he does not only does the brand justice, but makes it his own, brings his own spin on things. It's amazing to see. I will try and bring some more content out. I've said that for the last like half decade, I know, but we'll get something going. But just, keep supporting Phil because he does amazing work and it's a pleasure to have such a high quality show every single day. As chat, I'm normally just Philly Sports Network. If you see a reply from like the PSN account, it's just me winding Phil up usually. But yeah, we'll get some stuff going.
Tyrone, I just found his little short video on Jordan Mailata from Jordan Mailata's first preseason game. I don't even know how that popped up on my screen. It just randomly popped up. And we didn't even get to do it. There's no super chat, so we're not talking about it. Maybe I'll talk about it tomorrow. But how far Jordan Mailata's come from that first preseason game, that was eye-opening when I watched that, Liam. So, yeah, you got to get out and do some more videos. You do a really good job at editing them, too.
Yeah, I did. I think what I genuinely found was that I got so busy that I didn't have the time to put out the quality that I wanted. And it was like, I was at the time it was Twitch and stuff as well. Once that hamster wheel stopped turning, it was hard to get on. I don't want to put out stuff where I'm not proud of it and I'm not confident because I knew you guys are going to be like, this is going downhill. And there were so many other good content creators at the time. Guys like Philly 500, guys like Lord Brunson coming up, people doing film breakdowns. And it was like, I don't know. I lost it a bit. But to have something like this, which is unique and it's its own thing, and that we're the only people doing it, that's what gets me fired up. So I'm like, all right, well, maybe there'll be a Trending in the PM. Maybe I'll do something a few days a week in the evening. All I'm saying is watch out for Friday. All right, there could be an announcement tomorrow. Friday evening, I might do a live show like 5, 6 p.m. Because I want to get back to doing it. I feel live shows are better for me, like logistically. So we'll see. But just keep supporting Phil because this show.
I appreciate it, Liam. Yeah, it's been a pleasure being a part. Now it's been about 6 months now, so it's been a pleasure. So it's been a while now. But everybody have a great day. Hopefully, the escaped guy gets caught today. We are on day 7 in Chester County lockdown mode. It's hot as hell in Philadelphia still, guys. Everybody have a great Wednesday. We'll be back tomorrow. Mike Greger, Philadelphia Sports Network writer, on tomorrow. Brian Cameron on Friday. We'll continue breaking down Eagles Patriots. We're getting the whole entire PSN crew as we get set for this season. Everybody have a great Wednesday. We'll be talking to you guys tomorrow, 8:15 a.m., Trending in the AM. Go Birds.